So we are live with Charlie Live here. So you're an entrepreneur, you know a lot about influencer marketing, branding, and that's really important nowadays because entrepreneurs nowadays, there's so many of them, they need to put themselves out there in the social media world, right? People want the attention, either, they want to be in talks, conferences, sell courses or whatever it is. Just having your name out there is important because you established a network. Now, before talking about that, what's kind of your origin story into entrepreneurship?
Definitely, dude. Great question. So, growing up as a kid, I was raised by a shaman. So I've always had this spiritual upbringing, right? And I've always felt like I've been put on this earth for a bigger purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when I was around 15, I got super into motorcycles. I bought a motorcycle, and my dad helped me pay for it. And he pretty much said one day, get a job or I'm taking your bike. Well, what had happened before is that he told me to get a job, and I wasn't getting a job because I was comfortable, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then so when he said, hey, I'm taking your keys or you're getting a job, that just really lit me up, dude. And I'm the kind of person that when someone says to do something and I know it's going to help me, I'll do it like 3 times of what they told me because I know it's going to be better for me. So what I did is I went and got 3 jobs. So at the age of 15, I was attending a full-time high school. I had straight A's, and I just every single day went to work after that. So, I was around 16 at this time. My parents actually moved onto a boat. You didn't have like access to electricity or hot water all the time. It's off on the beach. So you got to like row into the beach every time you get on and off. So you can imagine, being an entrepreneur, I love music production. Like I needed access to internet and a power supply. Right.
Yeah.
So what happened is I moved into my friend's garage, when I was about 16 or 17. And so out of that, I would just take my motorcycle. I'd go to school. Right after school, I would go get some food. I actually worked at a Subway, so I'd go to Subway, eat some food, and then go into work there. I'd get off work, and then I'd go to my grind, my side hustle. So it was like a lot of sacrificing sleep, right? But it was worth it, and I loved it so much. So once I started to take a lot of fearless action, I got to test and taste a lot of things and be like, okay, this is what I like. I don't like this. I want to add a little more of this to the spice. So eventually, I got connected with Marco the Champion. And we sat down and pretty much he asked me about my story, what I wanted to do. I just sensed an energy and what I said to him, I was like, dude, I don't care what it is. I just want to be around you more often. And I had no idea, how I could provide value as an extremely successful CEO. And all I knew though, was I wanted proximity because you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So I knew if I could get more proximity and understand how these people think and how they act and who they are really, because when you look at success, like, it's not just, yes, it's a certain way of doing things. Mm-hmm. It's also a certain way of being. Because people are like, if you look at Elon Musk, like, and you look at nature, like nature doesn't try to grow leaves. It just grows, right? You look at Elon Musk, he doesn't like try to, he is who he is, right? It's be, do, and have, like Tony Robbins, So I understood that if I could be like these successful entrepreneurs, I could do what these people do and I could have what they have, right? So from that, pretty much just Marco offered me an internship opportunity as soon as I left the building. He called me back like 2 minutes after I left, and I just accepted blindly. So that's pretty much how I got into the business where I'm at right now. But it's actually funny that you mentioned going into e-com because when I was living in my friend's garage, I was bouncing around too. I was tasting and testing a lot to find out what I liked, right? Because in order to find what foods you love, you got to probably taste some bad ones too.
Yeah.
So I went into drop shipping. So eventually my motorcycle got stolen. And so I used all that money I used all that money to fund the new business. I put a little down payment for a new motorcycle so I could have transportation still. And then I put all of it into drop shipping. I put about $7,000 into drop shipping and lost it all. Pretty much like broke even on my ads, but with the cost of living and everything, it added up. It was the best $7,000 I invested because it taught me a lesson. First of all, that money isn't to be afraid of. You can always make more and effortlessly, depending on how strong that belief is in your mind. And also to just continue testing like a mad scientist. I think that like that's what it really came down to for me, and especially for like young people out there who don't really know where to get started, because I get this question a lot. It's just start somewhere and you'll taste mad foods, you'll find out what you like, and then you can go from there. Yeah.
I think the first step of being, going into entrepreneurship is to try different things out. Like you just said, if you just, if you try SMMA and you don't like it, you can try something else. Yes, you can say you quit, but it's okay because, you don't want to do that for the rest of your life. If you do something that you don't like for the rest of your life, you're creating your own 9 to 5. And what's the point of being an entrepreneur if you're not going to do something that you genuinely love, right? Mm-hmm. And until you find that one thing, just go all in on it and some people say if you find that very, very early in your life and you do it for the rest of your life, that's going to be really, really cool. Because if you do find it later on,
Yep.
compared to if you were younger, you're not going to, scale up as fast, right? So
Yep.
definitely try as many things as possible until you find that one thing that you love and go all in on it.
Yep.
Now, in your case, you said you found Marco. How did you encounter him and meet all these entrepreneurs, get that mindset to the point where you wanted to work with him and be around him all the time?
Great question, dude. And the simplest answer to that is consistent alignment, consistent thoughts of you already having what you want, right? There's two things you need to do to achieve something. Believe that you already have it and then actually do it, right? Believing that you already have it is the first step. So first of all, just like the path that I was put on, like if I don't know how deep you guys are into like quantum physics and how everything works and the law of attraction and everything, but it's actually been broken down into a science, whereas for our parents it would be more like mumbo jumbo kind of magic stuff. But now there's quantum physics. Now there's actually a way to measure the energy fields and everything that's around us, right? So for me, dude, I truly believe it was just pure organizing power because I was on a mission and Mark was on a mission, and when two people are on a mission, they align. It works like that. I mean, like physical story of how it happened. I had a mentor when I actually started my SMMA. So I got into e-commerce, lost my money in that. So I was like, cool, what's next? Well, what's everyone talking about on YouTube? I'll start up an SMMA. I probably went through the same thing you did. And so I did that, right? So I was going to all these businesses and I went to this one business and there was a business owner, and I pretty much went to talk to his real estate agents because he was talking about 1031 exchanges. So I'm like, boom, if I talk to the real estate agents that are attending, I can get some leads from there, right? So that's what I went for. I ended up talking to the business owner who gave the presentation. And at the end of it, he asked me to come back to his office. And there he told me, I want to mentor you. And he had this whole nonprofit as well. So he started mentoring me for a bit. Some legal things happened and it didn't go well. And I actually had to stop getting mentored by him. But by that time, he had already connected me with his extremely powerful network of influential people in San Diego, right? So network you mentioned before early is so important because the more people you know, the more people that know, like, and trust you, the more opportunity you're going to have, right? So we had this one, he's actually an iLegendz member, Dan Fulkerson, and he referred me over to Marco. I sat down with him. He's like, you know what, Marco's a young guy. He actually gave me two phone numbers. One was for my dream car and the other one was for Marco. And I knew that by contacting Marco, I'd be able to get this first one too. So yeah, from that, me and Marco just like got connected through that, sat down. And I'll just say, dude, like it's truly, it even surprises me sometimes. Like it's such a blessing. And I think big blessing comes like that when you're on a mission and your purpose is to serve and your purpose is bigger than yourself, right? Because when it's bigger than yourself, everything bigger than yourself will work with you to help you achieve it.
Yeah, I definitely do agree. The fact that if you want to achieve something to a specific degree and there's someone else doing it, maybe halfway across the world, one way or another, your paths are gonna interchange. You guys are gonna meet somehow because you're both on a mission. And I do think that things happen for a reason, right? So if it didn't happen now, it's gonna happen tomorrow, right? As long as you still have that energy and that ambition of doing what it is that you want to do. So you said you hit up Marco, and he offers you an internship. You accept the offer blindly. What happened next? And what is iLegendz exactly? I actually spoke to Marco not too long ago, and he told me all about his story of how he found iLegendz. And it's really cool what he's doing with his business right now.
Totally, dude. So I mean, essentially, iLegendz is an exclusive social network. So my role in the company is I pretty much consult with our members who are all successful millionaire influencers and stuff that are building their influence to make a positive impact. And that's what it really comes down to, right? Because like you said, everyone wants attention. Everyone wants to have a bunch of followers. Everyone wants the clout. But the reason is why. And that's the most important question is why. What are you going to do with that attention? Because we've seen a lot of different people do a lot of different things with attention. You have two sides of the spectrum. Look at the freaking influence that Hitler had. And it's terrible to mention, but he had a lot of influence. And look what he did. Look at the influence that Martin Luther King had. Look how much of a positive impact he had, right? So influence, just like the universe, the law of attraction, it doesn't care what you're using it for. It just works, right? So for us, our job is to mainly ensure that we're putting influence in the hands of the right people, the people that are going to change the world, the people that are going to help us progress through this huge transition that we're all going through as a human race. So day to day, I'm consulting with these people. on the best strategies to move forward, how to build their influence, how to maximize their impact, and really help them with their personal goals pretty much.
Yeah, and I do think that service is important because these entrepreneurs, they're already way too busy with what they're doing right now with their own businesses and whatnot. And if you add that service of building their personal brand, of course, having that attention for their own benefit. I mean, of course, they have their own motives for having that attention and using it for whatever it is, but working on a personal brand is another job in of itself. So adding that service is almost essential for entrepreneurs because they value so much time. They value time more than anything, and if they can help or have a service do that for them, then I think it's really good. So what sort of strategies do you implement to grow their personal brand? I mean, nowadays there's so many platforms out there, but what are some essential things nowadays, new marketing trends, new branding strategies to really grow your personal brand, either as TikTok, LinkedIn, Instagram? What is it exactly that you really try to focus on?
Yeah, the main thing we focus on, and this is for literally everybody, I love that you touched on time, because when I hop on these calls with our members, it's time is their number one resource that, and a lot of them have already started to try to grow their influence, and they're like, oh, it's just too much time, right? So it's either time or money. You get to decide. And so our members decide to, pay for the service instead of spending their own time. So the main strategy, and it's super simple, you might be a little surprised, but it's just consistency. Like, that's it, dude. If you remain consistent and you put out content that speaks and adds value directly to your ideal follower, the person that you're able to impact most. And by the way, that's the only people you should be making content for, because they're going to be the ones to listen and take action on your knowledge. That's simply what it comes down to. We've had clients making 10 to 15 grand on the DMs per week just by that alone. No other additional strategies on top of that. No ads, literally just making content that adds value to their dream clients and then connecting with them in the DMs, right? So like, that is the foundation of it all. On top of that, there's so many different things that you can go into with ads, influencer shout outs, influencer marketing, different kind of promotions, webinars, books. Like, there's so many different strategies that our members get to have fun with. And I'd be happy to dive into those too. I realized I missed an important question that you had about what happened after I got connected with Marco. And I'd love to dive back to that if that's okay.
No, it's cool. Yeah, for sure.
Cool. So yeah, dude, crazy. So after we connected there, I was in the office for San Diego for about like 3 to 4 months. And I really got to see the business go through this big transition. I got to see Marco be what an amazing CEO he is, right? Because I kind of came in where it was going through this big transition of bots to where we are now, right? When Instagram did that big update, because we had a few packages that were running the AI and everything, and all that got shut down. And most of the companies, they didn't know what to do. I got to witness Marco, pull the golden egg out of it. So I thought that was amazing. So about 3 months later, I got the opportunity to move to Phoenix with him. I again accepted, like the first time I did, blindly. I was like, yes, I'm down for that. I don't care what it takes, whatever it is. Like, I really quit my job. And I moved out to Phoenix with him. I left my parents. I had never been to Phoenix. First time I'm ever going to Arizona is in a minivan with my dad with all this stuff in the back, moving over there. And so for those next 7 to 9 months, it was just pure immersion in sales, communication, enrollment, closing. Like, literally did nothing else besides just, get mentored and progress and put myself in extremely uncomfortable positions. And I think that's what it really takes for any young entrepreneur, is to put yourself in a position like that, where you're going to be extremely, extremely uncomfortable, because that's how diamonds are made. And everything that you want and don't have sits literally just outside of your comfort zone. And all you have to do is take a step outside.
Yeah, that's the hardest part, getting out of your comfort zone. But people say once you take that dive, once you take that leap, you realize it's not that bad. And you kind of wonder why you complained on doing it. You guys just take that first step and just do it. And I think good things can happen. But I mean, even if it doesn't go well, you still have that experience and you can still reflect on that, right? So in terms of the DMs, that period of going from bots to having, scaling that, because you said Instagram closed so many accounts, a lot of business owners were, panicking and whatnot. So you essentially had to start from scratch again? With the Marco?
I mean, a little bit. So a lot of like the strategies were still the same, right?
Okay.
The strategy of how things worked. It's just that probably I don't even know exact percentage, but a huge percent of the industry was just using these bots, right? Because it's so easy. Like, you have this AI. and you pay like a couple $100 a month to have these bots run in, do like the follow for like and all these different things. All of a sudden, Instagram comes out with an update that shuts it all down.
Yeah.
So like these people who were making millions and millions of dollars instantly went from that to zero because they didn't adapt. I got to see Marco adapt, and that's kind of where this was born out of. But ultimately, like it was always meant to be something bigger than an agency. You know, it's more a platform. Like we're not just an agency in the sense that, oh, you know, you can pay us for these services and these are all the different things we do. We're more like Amazon in the sense that it's like we are a hub of the most exclusive, successful resources for building your legacy, creating more impact and more income. And as an agent, I just get to advise on the best investments. So that's what it comes down to.
And in terms of building the content, do you have to stick with the entrepreneurs or whoever's building their personal brand for quite some time because maybe they don't know how to create the content? You create it for them. And if you create the content for them, do you have to be there at all times? So do you have a creation team behind that?
Yeah, so we definitely have a creation team that we'll send out to each of our members. Super fun. So we'll do a content day. We like to do batch filming, understanding again that our members' most valuable resource is their time, because time is money, right? And they could be staying in their zone of genius, making more money instead of taking more time, right? So we really like to minimize the time that it takes. So we'll even do a content day where we can knock out 1 to 3 months, depending on how efficient we are, of content just in like a half day, right? So we'll pretty much go there. At first, it does take a bit. It takes a bit for our members to, you know, understand, because it's a concept to grasp and really understand that the content that you're making is a lifeline, and that you not putting out content and you not sharing your thoughts and your success, your audience is drowning literally without you. They're drowning right now, especially with what's going on around the world. So it's literally like throwing out lifelines. It's really an identity that our members pick up rather than just like a few tips and strategies of how to film content. And it's been really, really amazing to see. I've seen, for example, one of our members, Carlton Dennis, has like really taken big initiative on it because he understood it. And then he wants to take it to the next level. So when we come in with content, he's already got all the content ideas planned. He's tapped in with his audience. He knows exactly what they need to hear because he's connected with them, right? Then there's a few other members that it's like, hey, you guys are the experts. Please help us. And we're glad to do that. And we'll provide the strategies. We'll analyze what your audience needs to hear most. And we'll go through all that. Ultimately, you know, the most important part and the foundation and the forefront of everything, though, is the content that speaks to the ideal follower. And with that, it definitely takes some time to develop, you know, so it's a lot of testing, finding out what people like, and then replicating more of that and cutting off what's not working.
So for any entrepreneur or influencer or someone who's trying to be an influencer and say they have a couple hundred followers, but they really want to make it at 5K, 10K. And I know you mentioned that consistency is key, you know, producing as much content every day, because if you produce as much content every day, you remind everyone every day who you are, right? If you don't do it for one day, then they kind of just forget about you, right? As harsh as it is. So besides consistency, what are some really golden nuggets here that can really help entrepreneurs and influencers to grow a personal brand? You know, you can say hashtags or really diving into who your audience is. I think that's the hardest part too. You can create an avatar of who your audience is. Is that the first step, you think?
Absolutely. Absolutely. If you understand exactly who you're making content for, it becomes easy. Like, no joke. You know exactly who you're speaking to. Like, think about the last time you talked to one of your parents. You just talked to them. You didn't think about what you had to say to them. You know exactly who they were. You know who they are, what they wanted to hear, what's on their mind, what their agenda is. You understand them, so you don't have to try to talk. You just talk. You just be, do, and have, right? So the more clear that picture is of your avatar, the more clear your mind is going to be on exactly what they need to hear. And you're actually going to be ahead of the curve. Because what it's going to come down to is you're going to be literally taking the thoughts out of their head. You're going to be taking the question out of their head. And that's what a good title does, right? That's what a good title, like on Instagram, like you're scrolling and these attention spans are like goldfish right now. Like so quick. Like scrolling, it's like boom. So in order for your content to capture attention, that title has to scream at people. It has to say, this is exactly what you've been thinking, and put an end to that question in their mind, and literally sell them on watching the next 60 seconds to 3 minutes of your video. That's the most important part we found, is that title, right? Because if it's just content, and if it's just someone talking right away, it's so easy to scroll past that. But if there's a title that's not just a description of the video, it's not just like, oh, this video is about, you know, dogs in office, right? Instead, you could put it as, what's the return on happiness with dogs on office, right? And pretty much take the question out of people's mind, place it in front of them, and then give them the answer. That's the simplest way to do it. Another extremely powerful tool that if you rapidly want to grow your following, which is what Charlie Rocket did when he hopped on Jake Paul's podcast and went from like less than 100 subscribers in one day to something ridiculous, like above 20K or something. It's just straight collaboration. It's connecting with people that have attention as well. And that all comes down to like the reason why you're building a personal brand in the first place. It's to build relationships. What building a personal brand gets you, yes, is ROI, but that's more of a byproduct. What it really gets you is ROR, which is return on relationship. The more people know, like, and trust you, the more of that ROR that you have, right? So it's an extremely powerful tool, and it's kind of like a snowball effect that the more you collaborate, the more you put out content, the easier it's going to get to climb up. And at first you might be collaborating like this, but then it's going to start to go there, and you're going to start exponentially climbing. Collaboration is free, and it's probably the quickest way to grow that way.
Yeah. And, you know, going into the music industry, there's so many rappers nowadays, and you can hear an unknown rapper going into maybe Lil Pump's new music video, and then that person will just blow off, right?
Yep.
And the first thing that comes to mind in entrepreneurship is if in terms of promotion, I think podcast is arguably one of the best ways to you know, to really hone your skills and know someone else, get that ROR like you just mentioned. But are there other forms besides doing a podcast to really collaborate with someone else? What other means are there
of collaboration?
Yeah, because I know you can't really do events nowadays. Actually, you could to some degree, but what other means are there besides doing podcasts if you're not a fan of a podcast?
Yeah, totally. I mean, you know, a podcast is just like documenting a conversation, right? And that's really what we like to focus on, is documenting versus creating. And I think that that's like a big mindset shift, is a lot of people might think, oh, I have to go create content now. It's like, no, it's really easier than you think. Document what you do. People will love it even more, right? So then like a good question is, okay, what are some tools that I can use to document my conversations? Podcast is a great one. Instagram Lives, I found, is an extremely powerful one as well. It's a way to instantly cross-reference audiences. And, you know, the more attention that the people have that you're hopping on with, you might get 10 lives when you first, 10 views when you first go live. This person might get 500. Instantly you go live with them, you got 510 views on you, right? So I'd say Instagram Live is another extremely powerful tool to use, and not to mention Facebook Live, YouTube Live, all those different things. Yeah.
And how do you get out of your shell? You know, it's one thing having the idea of having a personal brand, and then, because I think you can't really half-ass it. Maybe you can if you're quite uncomfortable, but how do you get out of your shell? How do you get comfortable? You know, I think nowadays you have to develop thick skin on social media.
Absolutely. And I'll touch on that even, because social media is an extremely powerful tool, right? You know, just like in the old days, if we wanted to make an impact, or we wanted to protect our family, or we wanted to make our way that people weren't accepting, the tool that we used was a sword, right? Now, just like a sword, you could do amazing things. You could protect your family and have an amazing life. You could also mess around with it. You can fuck around with it and chop your finger off, right? Real easily. So social media is the same way. It's either use it or get used by it. So developing that thick kind of skin, I think what it really comes down to, and this is really on breaking out of your shell, is it comes down to identity. It comes down to obligation, and it comes down to purpose. You know, if like, there's just so many influences out there that aren't saying the right things, that aren't, their purpose is, and you look at even Instagram, right? Like Instagram, the algorithm isn't designed to put the content in front of you that's going to change your life and that's going to progress humanity, right? It's meant to put content in front of you that you're going to react to, that you're going to buy something off of, right? So when you kind of look at that, it's like, all right, well, everything around me and everything around us, the influence, the purpose isn't for progression and, you know, expanded consciousness. For me, I feel like we're at a time right now in our lives where it's adapt or die. Like if we don't adapt and find this new awareness of our earth that we're destroying, of how we're treating each other, you know, just speaking generally in humanity, like we're going to die, whether we kill this planet or we kill the people living on it. Right. So for me, it comes down to like, wow, if I don't get out there and put out content, if I don't console with my members and inspire them to put out content, these people are going to drown. Yeah. And I'm not happy with people drowning, dude. Like that breaks me, you know? What it comes down to for me is like fulfillment. I love helping people. And I think a lot of people feel the same way, especially right now. And then I just get the most fulfillment out of helping people. So like by me not putting out content, I'm not serving myself, right?
Yeah.
So the best way to serve yourself is straight to serve others.
And yeah, of course, on your personal brand, you have really great content. And in terms of yourself, are you responsible for creating all the content, or do you have, a freelancer, a VA of some sort to help you create that content for your personal
Yeah,
brand?
so we definitely have a content team within iLegendz.
Okay.
Yeah. So it makes it a lot easier because I started doing my
Mm-hmm.
own content as well. It was good. I got to understand it, right? And I think that's what's really important, is understanding something. And I hear a lot of people, successful people, talk on this, where it's like before you go pay someone to do something, at least get a general understanding of it, right? Because it's gonna make it so much more valuable to pay that person because now you can communicate with them rather than them just saying, like you go to an auto shop and they're like, hey, this is broken. Like you shouldn't even be on the road right now. It's going to cost you this many thousands of bucks, versus you understanding a car and being able to go in there and look, be like, oh, you know what? This is okay. I can still drive on this. Like we don't need to change this. It makes it worth your money and worth your time more. So
Yeah.
I started off doing my own content. We obviously have a content team within iLegendz. Yeah, dude. So there's a lot of different ways to get started though. Like everyone here can get started on their own. It's super simple. There's iMovie, there's Premiere that you can get student discounts. A lot of you are young, so if you're gonna want to put out content, I would say just start by yourself. Even if it's bad,
Yeah.
like, man, I use Canva. Canva's a free tool. It's amazing, like, and I just started putting out content. Like no worries on what goes out bad or good. The only thing you're looking for is what people like. So like have no emotional attachment to the content that goes out. Just look at the numbers. Look at how people reply to it. Look at the inspiration and the feedback that you get from it, and get energized by that. Get excited about that, right? And the ones that don't do well, don't even trip. You just got to learn what content doesn't do well. That's a win.
Yeah. I think something that's really important here is that within the iLegendz team, you have a content creation team, right? And that's really important because, say your company, creates content for their own sake and not for their employees or whatever it is, right? If you create content around everyone who's working in the team, you're helping them grow their influence. Yes. And in return, they can get more business, right?
Yep.
So when you hit up influencers, they see your content because of what iLegendz is doing, right, for you. It kind of it's a win-win-win scenario for everyone. Because if your company does not focus on your personal brands or whoever's working on the team, then, it's going to kind of hurt them in a sense. So I think anyone who has a business, who has a team, don't just create content for the business or for yourself, but for the others around you.
Absolutely. And that's the most important thing. Like when members or clients come in and they're like, every single person in this business has over 10K followers and is questioned on social media, like that is a group of people I want to be a part of, Yeah. It creates that culture, and culture is extremely, extremely valuable in a company. And when you talk to successful CEOs, they'll really talk about the importance of culture. Dude, absolutely. Having success within the business, it just makes it easy to get it with like outside of the business, right? With your clients, but you can start internally and then move out externally. I think it's a great idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what is something that you've learned the most, either through Marco or other entrepreneurs that you've been in contact with? I feel like if you're with them all the time, you are bound to learn greatness all the time. So what is it? What's something that really, resonated with you specifically?
Absolutely. It's a great question, dude. The number one thing that resonated with me was the awareness and control of my energy. When I first met him, I was the kind of guy, I was so energetic, dude. I've always had so much energy, and my whole life has been a lesson of how to control my energy. And I'll share, like, when I was a kid, I had so much energy, and my parents divorced. And like, I didn't know where to put that. I was a kid. I didn't have any knowledge that as much, right? So I didn't know where to put that energy or how to channel it correctly. So I just took it out in anger, and that's what it came out as. So as a kid, dude, I was just very angry, like cussing out teachers, like throwing chairs and stuff. Would have got expelled if I wasn't going to such an amazing school, which is the Waldorf school system. And so even as a kid, like I had all this energy and I just had to learn how to channel it. So when I met Marco, I was going off on all these different things. Like you said, I had shiny object syndrome. I wanted to do e-commerce. I wanted to do the SMMA. I wanted to do, drops, all these different things. And my energy was everywhere. And what Marco really helped me do is to channel that in, right? Because if you think of like a shotgun blast, it's going to go like that, but it's not going to go very far, versus a sniper, dude, that thing will fly, right? And so, dude, that's been my biggest lesson is learning that energy is our extremely most valuable resource. And the more we focus it and the more we channel it and put it into one thing, the faster it's going to progress.
Yeah, and just going back to what you initially said of trying different things out, expending all your energy in different things, not honing on one thing. It's okay because you have to find your ground first, and then once you find your ground, you can just focus on one thing and
Mhm.
grow vertically potentially from there, right? So
Yep.
it's all about testing things out, not being afraid to fail, and
Absolutely.
just grow vertically. And there's some people out there like me, I'm an introvert, but there's some people that make me like completely different, completely extroverted. I had this one friend named Adrian, and he's a goofball, and for whatever reason when I'm with him, like I'm usually quiet, but when I'm with him I'm just completely different. And I think it takes that one person to really help you out, either that's through a mentor, a coach,
Yep.
someone who is really an influential person within the industry to help you become who you want to be. So it's all about networking and not being too afraid. And I think that's what personal branding does, because you never know who you would meet.
Yes.
I've met you, of course, on Instagram. I saw you on Instagram, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people have hit you up because of your personal brand,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So that's what
Absolutely.
personal. So besides, just to provide context here, what other reasons are there to create a personal brand besides just growing it? Of course, you said, there has to be a purpose here, but has there been other opportunities that you've gotten, besides iLegendz, from your personal brand?
1,000%. And what it comes down to is attention is the new currency. The more attention you have, the more currency you have.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how much Joe Rogan sold his podcast for, but it was somewhere around like some crazy million, like 400 million or 300 million or
I
something
think
crazy.
300 million. Yeah.
300, just because he had a influence, he had attention. 3 million or 300 million. Sorry, like it's crazy, right? And it comes down to that and everything else. Like you'll start to realize that once you get into this, you start building attention, it starts snowballing. Once that starts snowballing, like you don't know where all these different opportunities are going to come in, but they're going to fly in, right? Dude, I wanted to go back on your question about like the most important things that I learned as well, because energy was an
Okay.
extremely important one. Another one is communication, which kind of plays into the energy, right? Because the biggest thing for me was, yes, my energy was everywhere with businesses and ideas. Like you said, it was okay in the beginning because I had to test a lot. The biggest problem that I had controlling my energy, I wouldn't even call it a problem, I just call it a circumstance, was my energy on phone calls, right? Because like I remember just being young and like my intentions are so pure. Like, dude, I just want to help this person, right? But sometimes the way that you come across to people on the phone when you're not skilled in communication, it seems like you're trying to scam them. No joke. Like my first deal, I followed up with this guy, Carlton Dennis. He's the tax strategist that I've been referring to a lot in this video for 7 months. It took 32 calls. I wasn't even keeping track of them. He was. So it's super funny. He told me that when I finally enrolled him, and what it came down to was communication. So like when I first talked with him in those first few months, like it was. He even told me back then, he was like, dude, I thought you were trying to scam me. Like you're always just so high energy. You're always up there. Like it just like seemed too good to be true, right? And so through that, like I was literally in those 7 months of following up with him, I was becoming a new version of myself constantly, right? And through that was how you communicate with yourself. Because yes, you can have all this excitement for this what's going to happen for this person if they commit to their legacy, they commit to building their personal brand. So much excitement and pure intentions, but if you don't communicate it correctly, you're gonna seem like you're in the wrong, right?
Yeah.
So that's what it really came down to for me is communicating in a way where it's not like, hey, I want you to do this. It's like, hey, you need to do this, and I'm able to help you. And by doing so, we're fulfilling our purpose.
Wait, but what did you say was it those exact words that finally got him to take you seriously?
It wasn't exact words, dude. It was a consistent follow up.
Okay. He got like overwhelmed. He's like, you know what? I'm gonna take the stab at it and trust Charlie here.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. It was consistency, foundation of it there. Same thing with your clients or with your content as well. The more you show up in someone's face, adding value to them, the more we're gonna be like, that's the person I want to work with, right? And I was
Mm-hmm.
17 at the time. I was 17 at the time. Like I had not a lot of previous sales knowledge at all. Like I was literally just progressing myself and through my mentor. And dude, it just came down to consistency and being genuine. Like I genuinely wanted to help this person. And I genuinely find fulfillment every single day in helping these people progress their legacies.
Mm-hmm.
Just like I was talking before about, Marco and how we got connected, the universe and God or infinite intelligence, whatever you want to call it, has infinite organizing power. And when people are on a mission, they're going to connect, dude.
Mm-hmm. How do you take no as an answer. You know, for 7 months, you said you heard no, and I'm pretty sure with other clients you've heard no. And you know, even for me, when I hear someone say no to me, deep inside subconsciously, it hurts, right? It hurts, but it's
Yeah.
normal. Everyone deals with it differently. But in your stance, I think you can get so numb to it, but that's not always the case. You still got to get thick skin. But in your case, how do you take that no?
I love that question, dude. And I'll separate it into two responses I have to it. The response that my bitch self has is, oh, that shit hurt. I don't want to do that again. I'm just going to give up. This sucks. My higher self is like, boom, you just got to know. You just got a lesson. You just learned so much from that. Dude, go get another one. Because if you can find out what your yes to no ratio is, that if you get 9 no's and you get 1 yeses, just go get 9 no's. It's going to be easy. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then you start to get no's. You start to take notes on the calls. If you're taking notes, you start to learn, progress. I got this no. Why did I get the no? Here's why. Boom, boom, boom. Now you're going to be even more prepared for the next call that you have. Right.
Yeah.
So dude, I'd say just take no's as lessons.
Yeah. I think you said taking notes. I think when I spoke with Marco, he told me that whenever he took a call, he wrote everything down, because if you have 100 calls, you're not going to recollect what you said, right?
Yeah.
So if you take a note down, you understand why something didn't work, and then you can reframe your structure, your framework, and test different things out. And if it works, you can build on that. If not, you just do a slight tweak or something, right? But
exactly.
Charles, I want to talk about your ultimate ambitions here. So, you know, right now you're working with Marco. Of course, you have different businesses here. You know, what's your ultimate ambition for the next 2-3 years, if you thought of something?
Yeah, dude. Purely to serve. You know, I find that the ways I'm able to serve and increase my impact while minimizing my input continues to grow. So I'd say that's my main focus. I have a huge vehicle of impact within iLegendz that's extremely fulfilling. So for me, it's thinking about, you know, how can I minimize the time that I put in and maximize the impact that I'm making. I think that's my biggest focus for these next 2 years. That comes with systemizing the businesses. I started Legendary Marketing with Marco, so we're going into that, pretty much setting up the analytics and everything, and becoming a business owner too. You know, I have an extremely successful business owner that I get to learn from, and be a part of that, right? Because there is a big difference between what I was doing before, which is just, you know, sales and closing, and being a CEO and a business owner, right? Very, very different things. And I think like a lot of entrepreneurs are like, oh, just being an entrepreneur is sick. Being a business owner, dude, it's a game. You know, it's a game that you put yourself into, and obviously you got to have bigger reasons of why you should keep pushing than why you should give up, and that's the only reason why you should get into it in the first place, right? Yeah, dude. Kind of went on a little train there, but you were going back to my biggest ambitions. Yeah, straight just minimizing my effort while maximizing my impact.
Yeah, it's a good point. And I feel with all this knowledge and energy you have, it can seem kind of natural that you want to create your own side hustle, your own business, become a business owner, right? Depending on what you want to do exactly. Of course, your iLegendz team, everyone has, you know, a bunch of followers working under a great CEO. They can learn so much. But sometimes, like, even with like Google, great engineers, people who work there, you know, great people in IT, they learn so much from the company itself and the people around them that they eventually create, you know, spinoffs or their own companies, right? Of course, they can be there forever, learn a lot, and be great at it. But sometimes you have an ambition of, you know, creating another side hustle, and that's only natural because you have so much knowledge and energy that you have to channel it somehow, right?
Yeah, dude. And I'll even, because that is such an important topic right there, because you're gonna be tempted, and I feel I've been extremely blessed to find such a good mentor, you know, just in the sense of alignment, just like pure intentions, and you know, so many times I've been like, ooh, this is great, like I want to go start this business, and that's where Marco really helped me control my energy, you know, because I was like, oh, boom, this is so cool, I'm gonna start a watch brand, I'm gonna do all these different things, right? Realizing like I wasn't thinking long term, but he was, thankfully, realizing that if I were to go shotgun like that, I really wouldn't go anywhere, right? What he helped me do is like channel that into the sales and communication and really develop that skill, right? Because I believe it's simply the most important skill to have is sales and communication, because sales is 24/7, right? So like going back to my energy being everywhere, I think that the more, and it's kind of funny to play with, right? Because like you said, like other people will go off and create their own companies. For me, how I look at it is I already see Marco as this extremely successful person, you know, even more successful than people may see him as now, because I've seen how his mind works, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it's like I'm committed to what we're building for life, because it's not just for me, it's bigger than us. And I know I can have a much bigger impact working with the team that I'm working with and with Marco's guidance, right? So many times my child mind has been tempted to go off and do all these different ideas. And thankfully I've had, Marco there, and then I've been able to train my mind to bring my focus back into one thing. Ultimately, like, the more value you provide to someone, the more value you're going to receive in return. Even though it doesn't seem like it's coming in short term, if you continue to build that relationship, the relationships are the most valuable thing, more valuable than any information that you'll ever get from any mentor.
Yeah, and I do agree because, of course, Marco has huge ambitions, not only with iLegendz, but with his other brand,
Yeah.
Motive, right? And if you think about it, like, if you leave too soon and it just scales like crazy, then you just miss on a really wonderful opportunity here, right?
Mhm.
So that's one thing to think about, right? But something that I want to touch upon is, say you're an entrepreneur, you're struggling on X, Y, and Z, or you really want to find someone who you have aspirations of being, right? Do you think, as an entrepreneur, is it important to try as many things as possible first and then find that mentor who you have aspirations to be? Or do you think it's just important to, find a mentor right away, and really taste it in that sense, in that dimension of, learning from the best, someone who's been there and done that?
Yeah, great question, dude. I'll share how I did it, and I'll share looking back how I would have done it. I was just in the mindset like, boom, I can do everything myself, right? So I was like, I'll go test these different things. I just use YouTube. Like, YouTube was a big mentor for me. So oftentimes it came to a point where, yes, like, I paid for mentors in e-commerce and dropshipping, but it was just courses, which is just like YouTube videos that you pay for, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like, my first mentors were YouTube videos. That's where I started, right? You'll kind of start to, and it's kind of interesting too, because like, I met Marco not as like, hey, I want to be really good at this. Can you help mentor me in this? It was like, dude, I just want to make a positive impact. And he like helped mold me into the person that I had to become to do that, right? Ultimately, what it comes down to is mentors accelerate your growth. So the faster you get a mentor, the more information you consume and you understand how people think and how they work, the faster you're going to learn in that subject, right? I think, testing it on your own is extremely important, because you don't want to go and, hype up a mentor and, get them to invest all their time, because their time is extremely valuable. And if they're mentoring you, it's probably going to be for free. So it's kind of a dick move to, just be like, hey, and super involved for like a few months, and then after be like, oh, I'm not really interested anymore. It's almost doing a disservice to that person, right? So I think it's definitely important to find that within yourself. Like I said, like, the mentor will present itself when the student is ready, and vice versa. So it really comes down to continuing to test and then trusting that infinite organizing power.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, I do agree with you in some degree that higher powers will align, but instead of, are you implementing that you should wait until it happens, or should you be on the hunt?
Always on the hunt.
Okay.
Always on the hunt. You should never say, this is coming without me. You should always be focused on what you can do to progress, trusting that good things are coming. I think that's the big difference there.
Mm-hmm.
Is like, you just be so head down, focused on your work. Don't even think about all these things, but that feeling, that emotion of knowing that good things are coming, it literally creates that for you, right?
Yeah.
So do that, like, while you're working, like, and this is something Marco says all the time, like, do everything as the best version of yourself, right? Like, brush your teeth as a millionaire, like, do that every morning, right?
Mm-hmm.
You'll become a millionaire. Like, if you do everything like that, and your intentions are pure, because intentions is what it really comes down to, everything will organize itself. By no means, though, does that just like wait around and do nothing. Because if I had have done that, I wouldn't be where I am today.
Yeah. And what's the right way to approach a mentor? Because of course, he or she might be extremely busy. And of course, you might be using that entrepreneur as a resource, which is true. But in terms, how do you offer them an incentive, to be on their program, to be under their wing?
Yep. That's a great question that a lot of people have to ask themselves is, how can I add value to this person?
Yeah.
And the more value you add to them, right? The more value they're going to want to add to you. And their value adding to you is more knowledge. It's proximity. It's their time, right? For you, not having that much, or, for anyone else who's listening, not having that much knowledge and that much experience, you got to find out how you can be of value to this person so you can get that proximity, right? So it's simply like finding out how you can add value to that person day to day through their business. Oftentimes it's hopping on a podcast. Like that's a great way to connect with mentors. If you're building out your personal brand, you can reach out, genuinely just comment on them. Like don't even send them a DM right away asking for it. Just build that relationship. So open their face, make sure they recognize you, they remember you. And then when you slide in their DMs to connect and ask for a podcast, they'd be more than happy to, because they've seen you a bunch adding thoughtful comments onto their post, you complimenting and relating, so that by the time you get to that closing question, do you want to hop on my podcast? It's easy, right? You've already provided or at least shown your commitment to the energy that you're going to invest into this person. And that makes them much more open to investing energy into you.
Yeah, totally agree. And, of course, entrepreneurs are so busy, and you do need to build some rapport with them. All these guys probably get tons of DMs, and
So many.
The worst thing is that, they work under you as a mentor, and you just kind of quit and they wasted their time. So of course they need to build rapport, trust you in the beginning, and then take them under their wing. Right. And who knows, down the line, you may, I don't know if you're mentoring right now, but of course, like whenever you post content online on Instagram, you're kind of mentoring people, providing value, and who knows, down the line, you might be an official mentor. People might, I don't know, people have hit you up already to be their, a mentee for you. So I think with all the knowledge you have, especially how you're so young, I think if you start as an entrepreneur, the younger, the better, because you have acquired knowledge. And it is a vital factor just to be with people around you, to be surrounded with like-minded people who are really, really successful, because you kind of become them, right?
Exactly. I love that, dude. And like, I want to leave with this message with your audience. Cause like a lot of people, being young, being like a millennial or a Gen Z, we're kind of coming from a time where our parents sought comfort, and their parents told them, oh, get a job, like settle down, be comfortable. We're in a time right now though, that's requiring a lot of uncomfortability because we're having to adapt. Change is happening, right? And you can either be afraid of change or you can go with it. So like what a lot of people are experiencing, what I experience, what I hear so many young entrepreneurs experience is their parents wanting them to do something different and wanting them to be comfortable. And a lot of the times they just don't understand, like it wouldn't make sense to them to go and start a business, right? Like it's just the way that people's minds think over years and years of programming. So for like a lot of young people, it's just important to understand that is nothing bad. It's not like your parents want you to fail or they want you to be unsuccessful. They want you to be safe, right? And how they think they're making you safe is by keeping you comfortable, when in reality, that's actually hurting you, keeping you comfortable, right? So kind of understanding that, like not getting, and I went through things with my parents when I decided to drop out of high school and quit all my jobs and not continue doing what they wanted me to do. And I'm extremely blessed that they were more open than I've heard most parents have been. But I definitely did go through that transition time. And just understanding that your parents aren't ill-intentioned, that they want what's best for you, and they just don't understand what that means, really. It makes it a lot easier. It makes it a lot less of an emotional transition, and it also make it a lot easier for your parents too, because when they see that you're not like emotionally reacting and lashing out at them, and more just understanding them and saying, hey, I understand, how you think. This is my look on things. This is the way the world is right now. If I continue on this path, like I probably won't be happy. Do you guys want me to be happy or no? Like, do you want me to love you or no? Right. Cause if you want to love your parents, by all means, do what makes you happy. Cause one easy way to hate your parents is do what they think is good for you. And end up in a career or a job that you absolutely hate because you listen to them. That's an easy way to hate your parents. Right.
And you can't really entirely blame them because like you said, they have a different mindset, a different framework, and who knows, for next generation, when we have our kids, they might think entirely different from what we initially thought. So we might have our framework might be totally misaligned with the next generation, right? But in reality, you kind of have to have that perspective and understand what they're going through, put yourselves in their shoes and whatnot. But times are definitely changing here. Charlie, I don't want to take too much of your time here. So if people, want to learn more about personal branding, want to learn more about you, iLegendz, where can they hit you up?
Definitely. Instagram is the best place. That's a spot to connect. Like, you're welcome to look through some of my content. The easiest way to like replicate and set up your personal brand, well, simply the easiest way to set up your personal brand is replicate what's working, right? So like what I've done to set up my bio, my profile, is we've looked at all these different legends and we've tested what works with so many of our different members. So like if you're wondering, you know, how should I position my profile to get people to want to interact with me, to get me to get them to want me to hop on their podcast and vice versa. Like you can literally just look at what I do on my profile, look at what other people do on their profile, look at what the legends are doing and replicate that. It's a super, super easy way. That's why I love marketing. It's because it's out there for everyone to see, you know, like you can just look at what they're doing and be like, okay, like that works. I'm going to go do this over here, you know,
Yeah,
like it's a secret like it is in a lot of different industries, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So at the Charlie Live on Instagram is the best place to reach out. And I'm happy to connect with you guys.
Dope. So I'll put that in the show notes. And yeah, man, I think marketing, there's so many trends. You have to follow the latest trend and just do that, right? Whatever's working, just work on it. If it doesn't work, or test different things out until you find something that does work, right?
Yep.
But yeah, so I'll put that in the show notes. And yeah, Charlie, I do appreciate you being here on the show.
Dude, my pleasure. Thank you for having me on.
Thanks, bro.